A very good morning to all, and on behalf of the Liberation War Museum, I welcome you to the online event on World Refugee Day 2020. My name is Noreen Rahim, and today I shall be moderating the event. Since 2001, Liberation War Museum and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, have jointly been observing World Refugee Day in Bangladesh. This international observance is dedicated to raise awareness of the situation of the refugees throughout the world. This year, as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has stressed, the COVID-19 pandemic poses an additional threat to the refugees and displaced people among the most vulnerable. Due to the pandemic and restrictions on large gatherings of people, many activities of the Liberation War Museum have been moved online. Therefore, this year, we are observing this day through this virtual platform. May I now request Dr. Sarwar Ali, Trustee, Liberation War Museum, to give his welcome address to the audience.
Good morning to everybody. Guest of honor, Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh. Special guest, country representative from UNHCR and IUCN. The presenters from Harvard University Asia Center and Trustee Mofidul, Hoque, the director of our Center for Genocide and Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the World Refugee Day program. In a digital platform, as stated by Noreen and organized by Liberation War Museum. This World Refugee Day has been organized by Liberation Museum for the last 20 years. This day is very close to our heart. It reminds us of 1971, when in the face of genocide perpetrated by Pakistan military forces and their collaborators, some 10 million people, according to Indian government statistics, has to leave their homestead and take refuge in India. I was one of those such refugees. And I had to leave the country with my wife and a 9-year-old daughter, 9-month-old daughter. But however, fortunately, I was recruited as a member of the Majbahin and could fight as a freedom fighter. The agony and the anguish with which the refugees has to live in India is displayed in our museum in bigger form. According to UNHCR report, after the Liberation War was won by the Mukti Bahini and the joint forces with the Indian Army, this 100% of the refugees returned home because they felt it safe to go back to their homeland. And for this period, we gratefully recall the help and support of the Government of India and the people of India. However, over the last few years, Bangladesh has to give shelter to something like 1.2 million Rohingya refugees who have been facing mass atrocities by the quasi-military rulers of Myanmar. Our guest of honor will possibly agree with me that in spite of the hectic diplomatic efforts, unfortunately, so far what we received is praise and promises, but no real measure so that the Rohingyas here considered it conducive for them to return back home. So on the World Refugee Day, we appeal to all concerned that not only the Rohingya issue, but refugees world over will return back home. This nothing can be more terrible than living a refugee life. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for a patient hearing. And now over to Noreen for going over to the proceedings.
Thank you, sir. As we all know, the World Refugee Day is an occasion to build empathy and understanding for their plight and to recognize the resilience and rebuilding lives of the refugees. In 2020, with the theme, Every Action Counts, the World Refugee Day has been observed in all corners of the globe. The aim of this campaign is to remind the world that everyone, including refugees, can contribute to society and every action counts in the effort to create a just, inclusive, and equal world. In this regard, Liberation War Museum, in partnership with Harvard University Asia Center, has created an online museum exhibit showcasing the artworks made by the Rohingya individuals who are currently living in the makeshift camps in Cox's Bazar. The purpose of this website is to build an international community that can be supported to the Rohingyas in achieving justice. The Thread exhibit project is developed by a group of Harvard students and activists and led by Ms. Rachel Chuang, a young and energetic mind studying at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. We shall now hear the background of this project from Rachel, who will join us through a video message.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Chuang and I'm the team lead for the Thread exhibit. My apologies that I could not be with you all today given the time zone differences. I would like to take a few minutes of your time to share more about Thread. This website is an online museum exhibit that showcases artwork and crafts created by Rohingya living in Cox's Bazar. We developed this site in partnership with the Liberation War Museum to raise awareness about the situation of the Rohingya and to encourage action from the international community. From the website's inception, my team and I wanted to be mindful that this is the Rohingya story to tell, and are hoping that this will be a platform to lift their voices to the top of the global conversation that is about them. We will continue to ask for feedback where possible from Rohingya contacts on this website and ensure that we are representing them well. The link is at threadexhibit.com. You'll have the chance to hear from some of the Thread team today, but I want to highlight the global support that we've received prior to and since we officially launched on June 8th. We have university volunteers based in Bangladesh who are raising awareness through their networks and social media accounts. We have other students from the Harvard Graduate School of Education who are working to publish an op-ed in the US. We have artists and organizations who have been kind enough to let us showcase their work on the website. Thread has been visited over 1,000 times by viewers across Bangladesh, the US, India, China, Finland, the UK, and other countries. The Thread team is made up of museum exhibit designers, web developers, students, professors, and many others. We want to invite you to join us, whether that is sharing the website with your network, connecting us with local artists, partnering for future projects, or taking other steps to empower the Rohingya. Art is powerful because it can connect people, and our team stands in solidarity with the Rohingya in their fight for justice. Thank you.
Thanks to Rachel for the nice introduction about the work. Now, some of the young volunteers of Center for the Study of Genocide and Justice, Liberation War Museum, have extended their support to this project. As media volunteers, they have been publicizing the Thread exhibit in different social media platforms. On behalf of the media volunteers of this project, we have Ms. Mafruza Sultana and Ms. Prethee Majbahin present in this event. Mafruza is currently doing her PhD in Salvation University in New Delhi, and Prethee is a master's student in criminology at University of Dhaka. I now give the floor to Mafruza and Prethee to share their experience and future aspiration to this project.
Thank you, Noreen, and thanks for all this for giving me. I am a volunteer of Trade Exhibit. Few days back, I have noticed a call for volunteer and I applied for it. As I always desirous of engaging with Liberation Museum, I took this opportunity. I would like to say my PhD work in international law is also inspired by winter school program organized by Liberation Museum and Center for Genocide Studies. I hope this online museum would create more value for many others. Due to my academic engagement and interest, I have visited many war memorial museums in different countries. In my view, it has huge significance for remembering sufferings from atrocities, claiming justice, and creating awareness against oppression. I love to share that I met a research scholar who is doing his PhD thesis on everyday of international criminal law. A major part of his work is related to contribution of war museum. So here I feel online museum is the best accessible option to everyone. It is not only because in pandemic we need virtual world, rather we are already been in virtual world even before the pandemic. However, this COVID shows us the real scenario and makes the world more virtual. And as a young generation, we prefer virtual world rather than real world. Here, I am not undermining the physical existence of museum. Rather, I mean online exhibition will increase the value of museum. So where this trade exhibit as an online museum will give you 24/7 access. Furthermore, anyone can share their arts and crafts to contribute fight for justice. For instance, I live in India. I have already found many interested people who want to share their arts dedicated to Rohingya refugees through trade exhibit. It is convenient because it's online submission. Similarly, as a media volunteer, I have received positive response from Indonesia, Vietnam, China, and some other countries. I believe this online exhibition will provide you the opportunity to access and share the crafts connected with refugees in any person in anywhere in the world. Many people they can't write article, they can't publish their work. Many people can't sit to talk about refugee day or express their feelings in word. But a stitch of trade can express their emotion. And this is the real motivation I agreed to work with trade exhibit. So currently we are 8 volunteers working in this project. Now my friend Prethee will explain how we are working and how we will proceed in long run. So Prethee, can you explain it?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Prethee Majbahin. For me, working with the media team of the Thread exhibit has been a wonderful journey so far. Soon after launching this online exhibit, we are trying to reach young individuals who are interested to tell the stories of mass atrocities against Rohingya community to their artwork. We have publicized this exhibit on different social platforms since social media is one of the most effective ways of reaching people from all over the world. So I, along with my teammates, started posting on our social media profiles to share this exhibit with our peer groups. We have circulated the website in different groups of people we are engaged with in our personal and professional lives. And today we are really happy to share with you all that in just 1 week, we had 266 visitors at our websites and around 629 page viewers as well. We have got hundreds of queries from interested individuals who know the power of artwork in storytelling. They were extremely interested to be a part of our online museum by sharing their visual stories like photographs, paintings, and audio recordings. This was just a beginning, and we expect more to engage the creative people and creative individuals in future. Therefore, we are planning to extend our team by including more people from different universities who will be working as campus representatives. So this is just the beginning, And through this online museum, we are unfolding the unsung stories of Rohingya refugees, which is a very important part of commemoration. What happened against the Rohingya communities and the whole world. And if the stories are not well documented, it can be a written form or visual form, there is a chance that we might fail to recognize the intensity of those events. So we believe that thread would be a great media, a website where the stories would be documented. The website would bring the stories to the global platform as it did in case of Naji and Rwanda genocide. So this was my part. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mafruza and Prethee, and also especially thanks to Mafruza for getting connected to us from New Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great privilege to have amongst us Mr. Masud bin Momen, Foreign Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, as the guest of honor. Mr. Momen has previously served as an ambassador and permanent representative of Bangladesh to the United Nations. May I now request Mr. Masud bin Momen to deliver his speech and to launch the national campaign of the Thread exhibit in this occasion. Sir.
Thank you, Noreen. Good morning and also good evening in other parts of the world. Trustees of the Liberation War Museum, especially freedom fighter Mr. Sarwar and also Mr. Mofidul Hoque present here. Mr. Stephen Corliss of UNHCR and other representatives from the UN system and other agencies, representatives of the Harvard University Asia Center, friends from the media, and especially the young activists from different universities here in Bangladesh, and all those who are involved with the online thread exhibit project. I'm pleased to speak at this digital thread exhibit, which we understand to be an excellent online platform created to share the story of the Rohingya community with the global audience, particularly our youth. At the outset, let me also express my condolences to the refugees all over the world who lost their lives due to COVID-19, and my deepest sympathy to the ones who were. At the outset, let me also express my condolences to the refugees all over the world who lost their lives due to the COVID-19, and my deepest sympathy to the ones who are suffering immensely during these trying times in various refugee camps. As we just observed the World Refugee Day earlier this month, the need for collective efforts through partnership is felt ever more, especially to reduce the plight of the refugees. The role of UNHCR in mobilizing all our actions remains crucial, especially this year when we have this theme, all actions count. I also thank the Harvard University Asia Center and Liberation War Museum for partnering with an initiative designed to promote the cause of the Rohingyas, leveraging the enormous power of art and technology to create visibility of and raise awareness of the persecuted Rohingya community is indeed a useful endeavor. As described by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the Rohingyas are one of, if not the most discriminated and persecuted people in the world. As we all know, in August 2017, a deadly crackdown by Myanmar's army on the Rohingya Muslims forced nearly 1 million Rohingyas to flee across the border into Bangladesh. They risked everything to escape the brutal military offensive, which the United Nations later described as textbook example of ethnic cleansing. In this backdrop, this exodus, the government of Bangladesh under the bold leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina took a humane approach in hosting over 1 million of these people. In line with the fundamental principles embedded in our constitution to support the oppressed people all over the world and mindful of our own painful sufferings inflicted on us during our war of liberation in 1971, as Mr. Sarwar has already mentioned from his personal experience. Bangladesh stood by and temporarily sheltered the Rohingya women, men, and children fleeing the wrath of the military offensive in their homeland. Despite our numerous challenges and constraints, we have tried to ensure all possible humanitarian needs with assistance from the international community and UN agencies led by, of course, UNHCR. Moreover, we have also developed a Bhashan Chor at our own expenses with proper amenities and infrastructure to reduce congestion and risks at the crowded camps at the moment in Cox's Bazar. However, the international community should not forget that the government of Bangladesh provided shelter to the Rohingyas purely out of humanitarian consideration and only on a temporary basis. The feasible option available to us and the ultimate goal is the return of the Rohingyas to their ancestral homeland in Myanmar in safety, security, and dignity. It is to be noted that despite our scarce resources and scarcity of land, Bangladesh continues to help the Rohingyas, but the continued presence of such a vast number of displaced people is severely stressing our resources and negatively impacting our environment, security, and the socio-political fabric of the region, especially in Cox's Bazar. A persecuted and desperate community with their rights violated and aspirations and grievances unattended for successive generations is always prone to radicalization, large-scale human trafficking, widespread exploitation, and trans-border terrorism. The prolongation of the crisis for an indefinite period thus has all the potentials to jeopardize the security and stability of the entire region. Regrettably, the progress towards repatriation is painfully dismal. As Mr. Sarwar mentioned in his opening remarks, and I have no reason to deny that progress has been slow, if at all. Nearly 3 years have elapsed since the recent exodus took place, and unfortunately, despite our sincere efforts, not a single Rohingya crossed the border. On the one hand, the verification of the Rohingyas by Myanmar, a precondition for repatriation to start, is moving at a snail's pace. On the other hand, there is a serious lack of political will and progress in Myanmar towards creating conditions conducive to meaningful returns to resume. While Bangladesh and Myanmar have recently attempted small-scale repatriation, these efforts have failed as refugees refuse to go back, fearing for their safety, and also in the absence of any accountability mechanism in place. Meanwhile, conditions in Myanmar's Rakhine state continue to deteriorate, and UN agencies have been denied full access to areas of return. To make matters worse, armed confrontations in the Rakhine state have reportedly escalated, even during the extremely trying time of the pandemic COVID-19. And I don't want to go to the details, but just today's newspapers, if you see, it's all over that there are thousands of Rohingyas are on the run because of some announcement by the local authorities in Rakhine of military clearance operations in various parts. So that is an extremely disconcerting development. As Myanmar is dragging its feet on repatriation, with our bilateral and tripartite efforts yielding no concrete outcome, the international community must step up and bring pressure to bear on Myanmar to create conditions conducive for the repatriation to commence and proceed sustainably. Initiatives such as the digital thread exhibit can play a significant role in creating visibility, stoking global public conscience, and drumming up international support for the cause of the Rohingyas. During the 74th UNGA, Honorable Prime Minister placed a 4-point proposal for a lasting solution to the Rohingya crisis, urging Myanmar, among others, to manifest clear political will supported by concrete actions for sustainable return and reintegration of Rohingya to Myanmar and the international community to ensure that the root causes of the Rohingya problem are addressed and the violation of the human rights and other atrocities committed against the Rohingya accounted for. The interim ICJ ruling obligating Myanmar to protect the Rohingyas and the ongoing accountability process at the ICC may instill some confidence among the Rohingyas. Holding Myanmar accountable for the crime it has committed is an important confidence-building measure and thus a critical component of a conducive environment for voluntary return. Although the objective of repatriation is yet to be materialized, Bangladesh continues to work with Myanmar and the international community toward achieving that goal in light of the broader policy vision outlined by our Honorable Prime Minister. I believe that the digital thread exhibit will complement our official endeavors to find a permanent solution to the Rohingya crisis by raising awareness of and lifting the voices for the causes of the Rohingyas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent deliberation. The displayed arts and crafts created by the Rohingya community, which has been shown in the thread exhibit, was basically the work under the Biodiversity Conflict Mitigation Project, implemented through UNHCR and IUCN partnership. International Union for Conservation of Nature, or the IUCN, is a platform that brings together experts and influential organizations to make efforts in conserving nature and ensure sustainable development. Especially in Cox's Bazar, the IUCN Bangladesh chapter has been relentlessly contributing to the conservation and maintenance of biodiversity in the region. May I now request Mr. Raquibul Amin, Country Representative IUCN, to deliver his speech.
Thank you, Noreen. Honorable Secretary, Trustee Mofidul, Hoque, Sarwar Ali, Stephen Corliss, and other respected guests present here. Very good morning. As Noreen is telling us, yes, IUCN has been involved with UNHCR in the Rohingya camp for the betterment of life of the refugee, especially when they face a challenge unheard of. They escaped atrocities in their own country, came to Bangladesh, and unfortunately was dying in quite a high number because of the elephant conflict with the elephant. Unfortunately, the Rohingya camp was established in an area which has been elephant corridor. We say corridor because it connects the forest in Bangladesh and forest in Myanmar, and elephant has been using this path for millennia, so centuries since their inception. And elephants has genetic memory. They follow the same path generation after generation. Anyway, so when UNHCR, I remember Andrea, who was based in Geneva, she reached us. And I just came to Bangladesh after a long time working outside of country, 31st December. I first went to the camp on 13th January. And on the same day, a woman lost her husband because the elephant tried to cross. It was very unfortunate because like the Rohingyas, elephant also lost his habitat, and they are only trying to cross the camp or traverse the camp to take their ancestral journey. And as the journey was curtailed because of these atrocities happening in Myanmar and Rohingyas coming to Bangladesh. Since we work with the elephant issues for a long time, we knew the elephant paths, we quickly could mobilize a solution. And the solution was very simple. We had Rohingya refugee volunteers. We trained them how to guard the edges of the camp. And we also involved the host community to guard the eastern edge, Gungdum side of the corridor. One of the issues we found was a language barrier. And we thought the arts can connect people, and art can be a very good communicator. So we involved an artist, Kamruzaman Shadin, whose art has been displayed in the thread. If you go to the thread link, you will see an elephant in the room. So with him, we created a life-size elephant puppet. And we use this to train our volunteers how to deal with an elephant when it's coming or trying to come through the camp. Interestingly, I saw one of Shadin's artwork in the Dhaka Art Summit a year before. He was working with the displaced and migrant population, including the Rohingya refugees. And he created a patchwork, a quilt, made of discarded cloth. When I stood in front of that quilt, I could feel the pain of the refugees, of the displaced and the migrant population. So I asked Shadin, can you do the same thing in the camp with the Rohingya woman with the discarded clothes and cover that elephant puppet? He did, and it really connected. The messages we try to establish is that the elephant is a victim. We need to respect the elephant. We need to respect that we need to live with nature and we need to live with the elephant. And it worked really well. In the process, we also found is the culture of the Rohingya people is very rich, very similar to our Chittagong Noakhali belt. And we need to also protect the culture because we find in our humanitarian conservation response in such a situation, continuing the culture is very important because add to their identity and add to their resilience capacity here as well as when they will go back to their own country. So some of this artwork has been exhibited in the thread, and we are very grateful to Mofidul, Hoque, who has been a great supporter and who has been promoting our stories of resilience that we are trying to do with the Rohingya community and also the host community. And I'll give you another interesting anecdotes of the whole story. On last year, we have observed that elephants are trying to come from the Myanmar side to Bangladesh. This has been their annual migration, so it's quite common. But what is uncommon is the elephants came in a group, 5-6 elephants with calf. And we have a host community elephant response team stationed in the Gumdum corridor. And they, with the help of Bangladesh citizens, Myanmar citizens, Bangladesh border guard and Myanmar border guard, they have managed that elephant. And we have, with UNHCR support, we have mapped, we have modeled, and we actually can create a corridor through the camp where elephant can traverse. But the problem is the border is sealed, and we also heard the border is mined on the other side, so it's not safe for the elephants to cross. Maybe since our foreign secretary is here, we can take it as one of the diplomatic issue of creating a peace park or of safe passage of elephant. We have the similar kind of SOP with the government of India because elephants also come from India in Sherpur, Jamalpur, that area. And both the government has agreed how to deal with the elephant and the free passages of elephant between Bangladesh and India. I'm saying this because I work on the conservation side. Stephen will definitely talk about the humanitarian side, but this partnership, humanitarian conservation partnership, we find it very important in terms of not only for the refugee response, humanitarian response, is also for the protection of the refugee animals, wildlife, and the host community. Because the elephants is now trapped, and you must have seen the plight of the elephant, said they are going to the host community as well. So elephant become a metaphor, and what we need is to work at a larger scale, both at the humanitarian side, and the conservation side, and the policy and development side. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. We have Mr. Stephen Corliss as the guest speaker in this event. Mr. Corliss is serving as the country representative, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. May I request to our guest speaker for his deliberation.
Thank you very much, Noreen. And I'm going to break protocol by first of all recognizing Mafruza, Prethee, Rachel, and the others who've worked so hard to put this together. I think it's a really fantastic and very inspiring. But then I'll start more traditionally by saying what a pleasure it is to be here with the Honorable Foreign Secretary, with the trustees of the museum, Mr. Mofidul Hoque and Mr. Sarwar Ali, with my colleague and partner, Raquibul, Amin. Just to say that I couldn't agree more with what Raquibul has just said to us about our cooperation with IUCN. I'm a humanitarian, as I said in an event we did the other day. I care about human beings and the people on the ground, but I think I was very touched by the tragedy of the wild Asian elephants and how the situation at the border and the construction of the refugee camp has kept them from being free as they once were, and we look forward to working together with IUCN. I want to thank the Liberation War Museum for allowing me to join today's event on World Refugee Day and to launch the thread exhibition. When the museum contacted me about joining, I really didn't hesitate, because we have, as I think others have said, a very long and historic partnership with the museum, and I'll talk more about that, but particularly on World Refugee Day, 20 years, that's quite remarkable. I should say that the Foreign Secretary stands at the very center of the government's leadership of this complex humanitarian and political problem, the Rohingya people in Bangladesh, and we work together very closely. Now, I've been working for UNHCR for more than 3 decades, and I must say that I still have that energy and commitment and optimism that I had on the first day. Mostly, and I was talking about this with a colleague yesterday, mostly because we realized that the people we work for are facing many, many more difficulties. So we can't let ourselves flag in our efforts. But I think another source of motivation is seeing the young people who are coming along now behind us, the next generation of humanitarians, and to be inspired by them. And the thread exhibition shows a different way that people can communicate and connect to the refugee experience and show their solidarity. So I'd like to thank the students at Harvard, but also at Dhaka University, and also at South Asian University, and all over the world. And I think this virtual platform is remarkable because it allows all of you to come together in a way that you weren't able to do before, across continents. And then also, I would say, across generations, because you're here today with the veterans of the Liberation War, the young people, making sure that the thread not only connects the refugees to us, but connects you to the other generations and to our common history. I think the thread exhibition helps us understand what the Rohingya crisis is all about. I mean, most of the world has that vision of endless lines of people pouring across the border, an undifferentiated mass of people living in shelters across the hillsides of southern Bangladesh in Ukia and Teknaf. But the Rohingya story is the story of individuals. Each individual who has a story to tell has hopes and aspirations for the future. And the thread exhibition helps us confront that human dimension by sharing us work from the hands of Rohingya refugees. It makes them visible to us and lets their voices be heard at the global level and in a very special way. And through that exhibition, I think the Rohingya people are expressing a personal and individual worldview, but they're also creating and conveying a sense of culture and an identity as a people. And the decades-long history of Rohingya in Bangladesh, refugees in Bangladesh, has at its root the denial of Rohingya identity, culture, and language. And most Bangladeshis and Rohingya refugees, they share a common religion, and that creates a sense of solidarity. But I also think it's this issue, the denial of identity, culture, and language, that resonates so strongly with the Bangladeshi people. They see in that a reflection of their own history as a nation. Now, becoming a refugee is nothing to celebrate, but we do celebrate on World Refugee Day. We celebrate the courage and the tenacity and the resilience of refugees and their commitment to finding a future for themselves. On World Refugee Day a couple of days ago, I sent a message to the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. I told them, many people say that Rohingya people are vulnerable. And in some sense, that's true, but we know them, and we know that they're strong. These are the people who were strong enough to find safety. They're strong enough to overcome all the hardships that they experience every day in the camps, and they're strong enough to keep their motivation and their aspirations for the future. And I must say, going home to Myanmar is all that they want. So UNHCR's theme for World Refugee Day in 2020 is everyone can make a difference and every action counts. And here I want to just speak to the people, Bangladeshi people of Cox's Bazar district, who were the poorest of the poor. They showed us the truth of this maxim. When the people came across the border in August 2017, there was no massive humanitarian operation. It took weeks for us to mount that and stand it up despite the fastest reaction possible by the government and also by the UN and other humanitarian actors. It was the people who opened their homes, who shared their food with the desperate people they saw flooding across the border. And as I said on World Refugee Day last week, this is a bright light in the history of Bangladesh and the history of humanity. We owe our deepest commitment to the Rohingya refugees to help them find a solution, but we also owe that commitment to the Bangladeshi people who've hosted them so generously, because I think they and the Rohingya look forward to a day when the Rohingya will go home and live as good neighbors across the border. So let's be inspired by that example of the Bangladeshi people who helped, that every action counts and everyone can make a difference. And I know that some people in the United States and other countries will see our event today, and I would urge them to donate to causes, certainly, that can help refugees around the world, but also make their voices heard with political leaders and policymakers in democratic societies where that makes a difference, to say that they're not inward looking, they are outward looking, and they want to see their countries continue to help. And I hope that when the physical exhibition can be opened in 2021, if possible, that many people will see it. I think World Refugee Day is an important day for us also to reflect on the long and important partnership that we've had with the Liberation War Museum. And this is really built on the foundation of our work with the government and the people of Bangladesh, which began in 1971, before Bangladesh became independent, while the struggle continued and while 10 million Bangladeshis were living as refugees in India. For those of you who are viewing this event from far away, I urge you to come to Dhaka. Come to Dhaka and visit the Liberation War Museum. It's a privilege, and it will be particularly a privilege if you have the opportunity, as I did, to visit the museum in the company of Mr. Sarwar Ali, Mr. Mofidul, Hoque, and other Liberation War veterans who are the living history of Bangladesh. The museum presents a very powerful portrayal of the events of 1971 and shows the sacrifices that Bangladeshis made to achieve independence. It speaks about the unspeakable persecution, I would say speaks about the unspeakable persecution and violence that was perpetrated against people and forced them across the border to seek safety. And this was the largest single displacement of refugees in the second half of the 20th century. UNHCR was here in Dhaka throughout the conflict. UNHCR was with the Bangladeshi refugees in India. The Secretary General, Utant, called upon UNHCR to act as the focal point for the coordination of UN agencies and international humanitarian assistance in the camps, more than 300 camps, and this was the first time of many that UNHCR played this role. We also were very deeply involved in coordinating the humanitarian airlift that brought 116,000 Bangladeshis back from Pakistan to the new country of Bangladesh. And at the time, this was the largest airlift of people for humanitarian purposes that had ever been executed. So these are the historical ties that bind UNHCR to the government and to the people of Bangladesh and to the Liberation War Museum. And we're looking forward to marking the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh and to commemorating our own small contributions in partnership with the museum next year on World Refugee Day. Now, I should have said this at the beginning because the Foreign Secretary offered condolences to refugees. Let me offer condolences to all of you who might have experienced loss during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and to all of the people of Bangladesh as we pass through this very difficult time together. But while we try to make sure that the Rohingya people and Bangladeshis receive the treatment and care that they need today, let us also continue to work towards solutions through repatriation to Myanmar. This is very challenging, and the Foreign Secretary has explained why. It's growing more complicated by the growing conflict between the Arakan Army and the Myanmar Armed Forces, and I'm very sorry to hear the report today that Rohingya people are once again caught in the crossfire of a conflict that is not really focusing on them. But we will continue. We will continue to make concrete steps. We have made very concrete proposals to the government of Myanmar to intensify contacts between the government and the Rohingya people in Bangladesh, to undertake projects that will make it possible for people to go home to the villages that they had left. And also we've called upon the government to send a signal to send a signal that would convince the Rohingya people that they can come back in safety, freedom of movement, a meaningful pathway to citizenship, and finding solutions for the internally displaced Rohingya who are still in the camps. Let me conclude with a few thoughts about our struggle against the COVID-19 pandemic and the importance of Bangladesh continuing to shelter and protect the Rohingya. When Bangladesh achieved its hard-won independence, some 9 million people came back to the country within 10 weeks. They left behind many who perished in the camps due to illnesses, cholera in the camps of India. Those people, many were children, never had a chance to see independent Bangladesh. They didn't grow up and contribute to this country's development. Their children and their grandchildren were never born. They're missing from today's society. They would have been about the age of myself and the Foreign Secretary. And I want to just think for a moment what Bangladesh lost and what we all lost. We say that saving a life saves a future and saves future generations. Humanitarian action is about easing suffering today, but protecting refugees has a more profound meaning. When the government and people of Bangladesh allowed the Rohingya, when the Prime Minister allowed the Rohingya people to cross the border and enter Bangladesh and gave them shelter and protection, you saved hundreds of thousands of lives. You preserve futures and you preserve future generations and all of the contributions to humanity that those people will make one day. So we have to do our very best now to ensure that the Rohingya refugees and Bangladeshi people living nearby receive the treatment and care they need for COVID-19. And we must continue to support Bangladesh and ensure that they're not left alone to bear the responsibility for this crisis, which is not of Bangladesh's making. We must use all our forces in this direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful speech. May I now request Mr. Mofidul Hoque, Trustee, Liberation War Museum, and Director, Center for the Study of Genocide and Justice, to convey his vote of thanks.
Well, I think this is the formal and the easiest part of the whole event that we have hosted today. But I think it's become more and more difficult as we proceeded. All the four speeches, the welcome address by Dr. Sarwar, then followed by the presentation of those young volunteers who have designed the thread exhibit, and especially the speech delivered by Mr. Masud bin Momen, Honorable Foreign Secretary, followed by Raquibul Amin, Country Director of IUCN, and finally Stephen Corliss, Country Representative of the High Commissioner for Refugees in Bangladesh. I am more than pleased because this deliberation now will become the part of the threat exhibit. And this has opened up before us the dimension of the whole crisis, but also has shown us that in spite of all the difficulties, it is the struggle, it is the action that can create hope. And that is, I think, at the core of the World Refugee Day, as Stephen has rightly said, that we celebrate the day, although this is a day full of sadness and many, many personal and sad stories. And I think the address by Honorable Foreign Secretary, Mr. Masud bin Momen, has very eloquently explained the situation now and also the way forward and also the necessity of global action. And I think through this observation has made maybe a small contribution, but we will move forward. And I think that's the strength of the whole work that we are engaged in our memorialization. And that is also what we wanted to achieve by commemorating the World Refugee Day. But I think what we have achieved is more than that. So our thank goes to these persons, especially Mr. Masud bin Momen, with whom we are working since the eruption of the crisis, and same also with the UNHCR, and we will continue this work. And I think the trade exhibition is also a new beginning, and I will share a few of our future plans with you. So today it has been officially launched nationally, And I think we will take a more vigorous effort, and the media people, they are all here. We are also thankful to them, and they will carry the message, and also our student volunteers, young volunteers, will take it to the different campuses, and together, I think it has the potential to spread over various important campuses of the world. I think that's very important, the youth engagement. And we are also thankful to IUCN and IOM, who have contributed and given us permission to use the art and crafts created by the Rohingya refugees, which is part of the trade exhibit, to the United News of Bangladesh, who have given us the photographs which are there. And also we have added from Liberation War Museum, especially we have produced one documentary film titled A Mandolin in Exile, focusing on a Rohingya refugee who crossed the border with his mandolin in his hand. And now he is actually playing the tune, singing among the camps. And the young documentary filmmaker, Anwar Russell, followed the person. And the promo of the film is also part of the trade exhibit. But we hope that in September, we will try to launch it, have a global premiere with involving the like-minded institution and persons of the film, which will also be a powerful addition to the trade exhibit. So, and I am confident that together we can work to make the exhibition interactive, both inside the camps and outside. We have a plan to do a Bangla and Burmese version of the text of the exhibit. In December, with the end of the interactive exhibition, we are planning to do traveling exhibitions to draw attention of the policymakers, media and academics and activists in various parts of the world. And I think Stephen Corliss already offered his cooperation, and we highly appreciate that. So this is a big dream, but this dream is fostered by the young student volunteers of Harvard University Asia Center and those of the Liberation War Museum and its Center for the Study of Genocide and Justice. Now we expect more and more youth groups will join the process, sewing threads to connect humanity. We congratulate the youths of the United States and Bangladesh who visualize the exhibit and welcome others from many other countries who will join the process. This is a small step, but we also believe in the call of the Refugee Day. Every action counts. And here I would like to quote the words that follow the call. Quote, "It has never been clearer that all of us have a role to play in order to bring about changes. Everyone can make a difference." I think that's the major point, and we are happy that our youths are getting engaged to make a difference with whatever little effort or significant effort they can make. So thank you, UNHCR, for what has been done for the refugees of Bangladesh in 1971. And we especially remember and say, thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Sadruddin Aga Khan. And with that word, we close the meeting, but we begin a new journey with a new strength and new hope. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, I would like to conclude this event. Once again, I thank the audience for being a part of this occasion from different time zones, and also thank the speakers in the event for their insightful deliberations. In our team today, we had Tariqul Islam, Moriam Radia, and Niloy Deb from Liberation War Museum, who assisted us with the smooth technical support to run this uninterrupted event. I also request the audience to visit the digital thread exhibit at threadexhibit.com and be a part of this meaningful contribution. Thank you so much. Stay safe.